There comes a moment in life when you realize not every bond is worth holding on to. Some ties look unbreakable because they are built on family blood or years of friendship, but beneath the surface they suffocate you. We are taught to endure, to stay loyal no matter what, yet loyalty without peace is a slow form of destruction. Ask yourself, what if the people closest to you are the very ones keeping you from becoming who you are meant to be? If love feels like chains instead of freedom, it may not be love at all. When respect dies, the relationship begins to rot from within. No matter how much history you share with someone, if they no longer honor your dignity, the bond will wither. Respect is the soil that allows love, friendship, and trust to grow. Without it, words turn into weapons and silence becomes a punishment. Imagine a friend who constantly interrupts you, dismisses your ideas, or laughs at your struggles. Or a family member who belittles your achievements as if they mean nothing. Over time, these small cuts add up and you begin to feel smaller in their presence, like you must shrink just to stay connected. The Stoics remind us that a person's behavior is a mirror of their own character, not yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote that what others do comes from their own principles, and we must not let their actions corrupt our own sense of worth. If someone has no respect for you, then staying tied to them is like walking barefoot on broken glass, painful, unnatural, and unnecessary. A relationship without respect is not a partnership. It is a cage. Respect is not about grand gestures or constant praise. It is about acknowledging the humanity in each other, allowing space for differences, and treating one another as equals. When that disappears, what remains is only control, resentment, and decay. To hold on in such conditions is to abandon yourself. To let go is to remember that dignity is not negotiable, and peace of mind is worth more than any tie that demands you live without it. Manipulation can wear many masks, and often it hides behind the face of care. A friend or family member may say they only want what is best for you, yet every word they speak bends you toward their own advantage. They might guilt you for not calling enough, remind you of everything they have done for you, or twist your decisions until you begin to doubt yourself. The subtle pressure becomes a constant weight, guiding you to live for their comfort rather than your own truth. Control often disguises itself as love, but it is not love at all. True love allows freedom. It does not demand obedience. When someone continually seeks to manage your choices, shape your feelings, or dictate your path, they are not honoring you as an equal. They are treating you as property. Even if they never raise their voice, the invisible chains of manipulation bind tighter with every compromise you make for peace. The Stoics teach that the greatest possession a person can hold is their own mind. To surrender that to another is to lose the very thing that makes you whole. Imagine a river forced into narrow channels, blocked by stones and walls. Eventually, the water stagnates. So too does the soul when trapped by control. A relationship built on manipulation will never give you rest. It demands energy, but never gives it back. If every conversation feels like a negotiation where you always lose, it is a sign that freedom has been stolen. And when freedom is gone, the bond is no longer sacred. It is a prison you must walk away from. Some people leave you lighter after you spend time with them, while others leave you drained, as though they have pulled the life from your chest. When a relationship constantly takes your energy without giving anything in return, it becomes a burden rather than a bond. You notice it in the heaviness you feel when their name appears on your phone, or the silence you dread after their visit. They may not strike you down with harsh words, but their presence demands so much that you walk away weary every time. Energy is not endless. Just as the body weakens when it gives more than it receives, the spirit falters when it is constantly emptied. Some friends or family members thrive on complaint, conflict, or chaos. They pour their troubles onto you, but never listen in return. They ask for your help, but vanish when you need theirs. The pattern is clear. You are the well, and they are always thirsty, yet they never bring water for you. The Stoics urged us to guard our inner citadel, the quiet fortress of the soul. If you allow someone to enter that space and strip it bare again and again, you will find yourself exhausted, unable to stand firm in your own life. Think of it like carrying a backpack full of stones that someone else keeps adding to. Eventually, you cannot walk your own path. Relationships should not feel like constant labor. If every encounter leaves you diminished, it is no longer a bond of love or friendship. It is a slow erosion of your strength, and the only way to restore balance is to put the burden down and step away. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect who you are. They mark the space where your dignity, your values, and your peace of mind are kept safe. When someone repeatedly crosses those lines, they show not only disregard for your wishes, but for your very being. It may be the friend who insists on prying into private matters after you've asked for silence, or the family member who constantly pressures you into decisions you've already declined. Each time a boundary is ignored, it sends the same message. Your voice does not matter here. A boundary is not selfish. It is the recognition that you cannot serve others if you are stripped of your own center. Stoic wisdom teaches us that self-control is a form of freedom, and to maintain it, we must not allow others to rule over our choices. If someone treats your no as an obstacle instead of a truth, they are seeking control, not connection. Think of a house without walls. Anyone can walk in, rearrange the furniture, and take what they please. That is what life feels like when boundaries are dismissed. Over time, resentment builds. You begin to feel unsafe, unseen, and silenced in your own life. A healthy relationship honors boundaries because it honors the person who sets them. But when someone continually disregards them, they reveal a lack of respect that no amount of excuses can hide. To stay in such a bond is to allow your walls to crumble piece by piece. To walk away is to rebuild them, to stand once again as the rightful guardian of your own life. Trust is the foundation of every relationship, and dishonesty is the hammer that cracks it apart. When lies become a pattern, no matter how small, they eat away at the bond like rust on iron. You begin to question every word, replay every conversation, and wonder whether anything spoken was ever true. Even half-truths or omissions carry the same weight, for they are designed to deceive. And where deception lives, intimacy cannot. Imagine a friend who promises to be there for you but always has an excuse when the moment arrives. Or a family member who hides money problems, addictions, or choices that directly affect you. Each hidden truth builds a wall between you until one day you realize you are standing on opposite sides of a barrier you did not build. The relationship may still look intact from the outside, but within, it is hollow. The Stoics valued truth not as a convenience, but as a way of life. Seneca wrote that nothing is more shameful than falsehood, because it distorts the very nature of reality. When someone chooses dishonesty, they choose a world of shadows, and in that world, trust cannot survive. Without honesty, there is no safety. Words become empty, promises meaningless, and your heart restless. You cannot build on a foundation that shifts beneath you. At some point, you must decide whether to live forever doubting or to step away in search of truth. To leave is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of clarity. Better to stand alone in honesty than to be bound to another by the fragile threads of lies. Some people are only with you when the sun is shining. They appear when life is easy, when you are successful, or when they need something from you. But when hardship comes, their presence fades. Fair weather relationships reveal themselves in moments of trial. And it is often in silence that their absence speaks loudest. You may notice the pattern. They celebrate your victories, but vanish during your struggles. They walk with you on smooth roads, but as soon as the path grows steep, they turn away. A true bond is tested not in comfort, but in difficulty. Stoic wisdom reminds us that adversity reveals character, both ours and others. When someone disappears at the first sign of challenge, they show that their connection was rooted in convenience, not loyalty. Like leaves blown by the wind, they drift away when the season changes. Consider the difference between a tree and a leaf. A tree stands firm through storm and sun, its roots deep in the ground. A leaf is carried only by the current, present for a time, but gone at the first strong gust. Relationships built on convenience are like leaves, colorful in appearance, fragile in reality. You deserve people who stand like trees, who remain grounded even when the sky darkens. If you find yourself always alone in hardship, surrounded only in moments of ease, take it as a sign. That relationship was never meant to last. To let go of those who are only seasonal is not bitterness, it is wisdom. For your journey requires companions who remain when the road is hardest, not just when it is smooth. Abuse often hides behind familiar faces, cloaked in words like love, duty, or care. Yet no bond can justify cruelty. Whether it comes as harsh words that cut deeper than any blade, constant belittling that erodes your confidence, or physical harm that leaves visible scars, abuse is a line that cannot be crossed without consequence. To remain in such a relationship is to allow harm to become normal, and over time, you may even begin to question your own worth. That is the most dangerous wound of all, the wound to the soul. The Stoics taught that while we cannot always control what others do, we must protect the integrity of our own mind and spirit. To endure abuse under the belief that it is love is to mistake chains for care. True love never strikes fear. It never silences your voice or leaves you trembling. A relationship built on abuse is not love, it is domination. Think of fire. When contained, it warms, but when unchecked, it destroys everything it touches. Abuse is that fire, and staying close to it only ensures that eventually you will burn. Walking away is not weakness, it is courage. The decision to preserve your life rather than sacrifice it on the altar of someone else's rage. No matter the excuses made, no matter the years invested, abuse poisons every bond. It is not your duty to endure suffering for the sake of keeping peace. Peace cannot exist in the presence of violence. The only path forward is to leave the fire behind and step into the clarity of freedom. There are people whose very presence feels like a storm cloud, always casting shadows over your light. Every idea you share is met with doubt, every hope with ridicule, every step forward with a reminder of why you might fail. Their words drip with negativity, and over time, their constant weight begins to seep into your spirit. You notice yourself becoming more hesitant, more cautious, even fearful to dream. The joy you once carried is slowly replaced with heaviness you never asked for. Chronic negativity is not just an attitude, it is a toxin. If you drink from it daily, you begin to see the world through the same bitter lens. The Stoics reminded us that our thoughts shape our lives, and to protect the mind from corruption is as vital as protecting the body from poison. To live surrounded by unending pessimism is to have your inner flame smothered by another's darkness. Imagine planting a seed in a patch of soil that is never touched by the sun. No matter how much potential it carries, it cannot grow in permanent shade. In the same way, you cannot flourish when you are constantly pressed down by voices that feed despair instead of hope. Relationships should not chain you to gloom. They should offer balance. honesty when needed, encouragement when possible, and space for light to grow. When someone insists on drowning every moment with their negativity, they are not simply sharing a mood. They are reshaping your world into their prison. If you find your spirit shrinking in their presence, it is time to step back. For your life was meant to rise, not sink under the weight of another's shadows. Some people cannot celebrate your victories. Instead of sharing your joy, they measure it against their own lives and feel threatened. They may smile on the surface, but beneath the surface there is envy, a quiet resentment that seeps out in small remarks and subtle undermining. What should be moments of unity turn into unspoken competitions, and over time you notice that your success becomes a burden in their presence. A relationship poisoned by envy is not a partnership, it is a rivalry. Friends or family who see your progress as a challenge to their worth will not stand beside you in truth. They may downplay your achievements, shift the conversation back to themselves, or quietly root for your failure just to ease their own insecurity. This is not support, it is sabotage, masked as care. The Stoics taught that no one loses by another's virtue. Life is not a contest, and joy is not diminished when it is shared. To envy is to live as though the good of others takes away from your own, but that is a false view of the world. If someone close to you cannot release that envy, the relationship will always bend toward bitterness. Consider how heavy it feels to walk with someone who secretly wants you to stumble. Each step forward is shadowed by their silent wish for you to fall. No bond can thrive under such tension. True companions are those who clap for you without measure, who see your light and rejoice in it. If instead you are met with jealousy disguised as friendship, it is a clear sign to let go. Better to walk alone in peace than to share the road with hidden rivalry. Addiction changes people. It twists their priorities and reshapes their relationships around the substance or behavior they cannot release. At first, you may try to help, to be patient, to carry their burden beside them. But when the addiction consumes them fully, it begins to consume you as well. Promises are broken, trust is shattered, and the person you once knew is buried beneath cycles of denial and relapse. You may feel trapped between compassion and despair, wanting to believe in their change, yet watching them choose the same destructive path again and again. A relationship under the rule of addiction is never balanced. Every moment becomes about managing their chaos, cleaning up their mistakes, or bracing for the next wave of pain. Your needs are silenced, your peace stolen, and your life reshaped around their struggle. Love does not mean losing yourself to save someone else, especially when they refuse to save themselves. The Stoics taught that each person must walk their own path toward virtue and self-mastery. You cannot force another to rise if they do not will it. Standing too close to someone consumed by addiction often means being dragged into their downfall, losing your own strength in the process. Think of a ship taking on water. You may scoop with all your might, but if the captain refuses to patch the hole, you will both sink. In the same way, staying bound to someone unwilling to fight their addiction places you in danger. To step away is not betrayal. It is the recognition that you cannot heal a wound that the other insists on keeping open. Your duty is to guard your own life, not surrender it to another's destruction. Your values are the compass of your life. They shape your choices, give meaning to your actions, and guide you toward the kind of person you wish to become. When someone close to you mocks those values, belittles your beliefs, or pressures you to abandon them, the relationship begins to erode the very core of who you are. It may come as subtle jokes about your faith, constant criticism of your principles, or dismissive remarks whenever you stand firm. Over time, the message is clear. They do not honor the ground on which you stand. To stay in such a relationship is to risk losing your center. The Stoics reminded us that living by principle matters more than pleasing the crowd. Seneca warned that those who abandon their values to follow others soon find themselves lost, drifting without direction. If the people closest to you cannot respect your compass, they will constantly try to turn you off course. Consider how it feels to guard a small flame against a strong wind. You shield it with your hands, trying to keep it alive, but the constant pressure exhausts you. A relationship that attacks your values is that same wind, threatening to extinguish what gives your life meaning. True companions may not always share your beliefs, but they will respect them. They will allow you to live in alignment with your conscience. If instead you are met with mockery, dismissal, or hostility, the bond is not safe. A relationship that forces you to betray your own principles is no relationship at all. To let go is to protect the flame within and allow it to burn freely without fear of being put out. Growth is the natural rhythm of life. Just as a tree stretches upward toward the sun, so too must we expand in wisdom, strength, and purpose. But some relationships act like chains, holding you down out of fear, jealousy, or control. You may notice it when a friend mocks your ambitions, when a family member tells you that you are aiming too high, or when someone close insists you stay the same because your growth makes them uncomfortable. Over time, you begin to feel as though your wings are clipped, unable to fly beyond the limits they set for you. The Stoics believed that living according to nature meant fulfilling our potential. To deny growth is to deny life itself. If someone close to you refuses to support your progress, they are not preserving the relationship. They are preserving their power over you. They prefer the smaller version of you because it makes them feel secure. But a bond that fears your growth is not love, it is possession. Picture a bird kept in a cage. It is fed, perhaps even adored, but it is not free. Its song dulls, its wings weaken, and what was once a creature of the skies becomes a shadow of itself. That is what happens when you stay in a relationship that holds you back. A true companion does not fear your rise. They rejoice in it. They know that your strength does not diminish theirs, and your success does not threaten their worth. If instead you are kept small, it is a sign that the bond was never about love, but about control. To walk away is to step into the open air, where growth is no longer stifled but embraced. A relationship built on fear is a cage disguised as love. You know it when you feel you must measure every word, guard every expression, and silence your true self just to keep the peace. Instead of freedom, you live with tension. Instead of comfort, you walk on eggshells. Fear may arise from anger, manipulation, or subtle threats, but the result is always the same. You are no longer living with openness, but with anxiety. Love does not demand constant caution. It does not punish honesty or make you dread the next moment together. The Stoics taught that love is an act of the will, chosen freely and lived without chains. Fear, on the other hand, enslaves. A bond sustained by fear is not a bond at all, it is domination. And domination slowly destroys both dignity and peace. Consider the difference between a warm hearth and a burning furnace. One gives light and comfort, the other scorches anyone who comes too close. Fear-based relationships burn in this way, forcing you to stay near while always harming you. To remain in them is to accept a life of quiet suffering, to let fear become the air you breathe. When love is true, it feels safe. It allows vulnerability, growth, and honesty. When fear has taken its place, you will always feel smaller, always silenced. No matter how much history lies behind it, a relationship rooted in fear cannot lead to peace. The clearest sign of all is this: if fear outweighs love, it is time to let go. For freedom, not fear, is the ground where love is meant to grow. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss the next reflection we share together.